This is Front Up on Geno TV. I'm Dan Drake, and with us today is KatRobinsonGrieder, the Executive Director of A Safe Place. Rather than my explaining what A Safe Place is all about, why don't you tell us a little bit, just to set a stage for some of the things we're going to talk about.
Thanks for having me on today, Dan. Well, A Safe Place is now in its 26th year of operation. It was started by some members of the Women's Bar Association back in 1987, and we offer services for victims and survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault on the island. And our programs have changed and evolved a bit over the years. Right now we just added a new program area that I love to talk a little bit more about, but our main areas are the domestic violence community-based services, and that includes our hotline, our 24-hour hotline. Our advocates are on call to respond in person 24 hours a day, to help with safety planning, respond to the hospital or the police station, to assist with restraining orders and go over options.
Why is there a need for this on Nantucket? Nantucket, this idyllic community we live in.
I get that question a lot. And, these problems cut across every segment of society, and Nantucket is no stranger to this, just like any other place is.
As we've been reading about
very
recently in the newspaper with the Blade Runner.
Right, and also in our local community, there's been several incidents reported, and so
that's right. There was one very recently.
And
tragic.
So we at A Safe Place hear about these things. I mean, that was a very brutal assault that was reported.
One here you're talking about.
One here, right. And there have been others in the worldwide news as well, but we at A Safe Place hear stories similar to that to varying degrees all the time. I mean, that's what we do, but it's not really something that a lot of people necessarily know about.
Do you get warning of these kinds of things happening? I know you can't talk about specific cases, but do you get warnings that these things are brewing, if you will, or is it pretty much when it happens that you first get involved?
Well, it really depends. I mean, in some situations we've been working with somebody over a number of months or even years sometimes, and usually, in fact, I was going to say, actually being in contact with an organization such as A Safe Place is more a protective factor against some of these incidences. So a lot of times when you hear about homicides that are related to domestic abuse, people have not been in touch or connected with a domestic violence service agency, because we really try to work with people around safety planning and making different decisions that may ultimately lead to their safety. However, it is often the case that when somebody makes the decision to leave an abusive relationship, that is the most dangerous time. So I don't know if that's what was the case in this particular incident or not.
Before we get into the specifics of what A Safe Place does, just tell me a little bit about your budget, your staffing,
Sure.
and also your new facility.
Yes, we moved, and I wanted to let everybody know about that. We've moved from 24 Amelia Drive to 5 Windy Way just in September, and
Windy Way being off Surfside Road.
It's off Surfside Road across from the Muse, just a little bit down from the UPS store.
Good location.
So it's a good location. It's near the schools. It's pretty accessible, and we like the new space a lot, and we want people to know that we're there because some people are still trying to find us over on Amelia Drive. So I'm like excited about the move, and I'm hoping to have an open house in the next month or two so that we can invite people over to see our new space. And what was the other?
Staffing?
Our
Staffing
budget and
and
staffing.
yeah.
Well, our budget is actually getting close to $450,000 now. And we have, let's see, we have 4 full-time and 4 part-time staff now. I just hired a totally new position, which is a part-time position for a prevention education coordinator. And that was, came out of our work for our 25th anniversary last year. We did some special fundraising so that we could increase and enhance our prevention work in the community.
Who will the prevention coordinator be working with? What groups?
Well, that's the program is really under development right now, and we're talking about that. One of the first things that we're going to be working on is to get our men's initiative, Man Up Nantucket, kind of reactivated and rejuvenated, and so that's one of the things that Sandy Robert is the name of our new coordinator that she's going to be working on. And we have a workshop that's scheduled in March as part of that effort, which is called Bringing in the Bystander. And so we hope that that will be a focal point to get men in and actually learn some real life ways that they can be involved in preventing violence against women.
Is it, I think all of us at some point, particularly the longer you live, see situations where you think there may be domestic violence involved.
Yeah.
Just in routine
Yeah.
interactions with people.
Yeah.
Are women or men any different in terms of their reactions to that and their willingness to step forward at this point? I'm just wondering why you're concentrating on men.
Well, I think one of the reasons is, and bystander intervention is not just for men, it's for everybody. And I believe that this workshop will be open to more than just men. But the reason we're focusing on getting men involved is that I think traditionally these issues have been considered women's issues because the victims are primarily women. So women have mobilized over the years to develop these services to support other women who have, gone through this. And but, when you think about it, men have a really important role to play because I think men are influenced by other men, and most of the perpetrators are men, not all of them, and men also do suffer from abuse as well as women, but in smaller numbers. So I think in order to change societal norms and get people to feel empowered to have a voice and step in and be able to say something, it's important to have everybody involved, particularly men, I think, because it's different a woman going to a man and saying, like, you should be different, you should do these things when you're with your men friends or whatever. But I think it's a different message coming from another man who's saying, like, hey, that kind of behavior isn't cool, it's not right, it's not acceptable.
What should somebody do in the situation I just described, where whether it's a man or a woman, where you suspect there is domestic violence? People don't want, the natural reaction is
you don't want to get involved.
You don't want to get involved.
Yeah.
You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You don't want to be viewed as jumping to conclusions. But if somebody comes in with a black eye, with an implausible explanation for it, what should you do?
I think the best thing that you can do is, in a private kind of way, take them aside and express your concern about them and let them know that that you're worried about them and that there's help available, and if they need somebody to talk to or to help them, that you will be there and to be non-judgmental. That's the best thing that can be done. I think ultimately it's up to the person to decide whether it's safe for them to even seek services or help.
But isn't it
Usually
all-
they have there have been a lot of threats, and they could be very real threats about what might happen to them if they reach out.
But isn't there a large element of denial involved in this as well?
Yeah, from whom?
From the well, obviously from the observer, but
Right.
from the standpoint of the victim
Yeah,
too.
yeah, that happens. I
Not
think.
the perpetrator as well, but the victim.
Right.
We're talking about the victim here, isn't
Right.
it?
Yeah.
That they don't really want to admit they've made a mistake by getting into this relationship, or
Right.
they don't want to.
And the thing is too,
they
I
don't
mean,
want to hurt the person. They
exactly,
right.
exactly. I mean, usually the reason people get into these relationships is that they genuinely care about the other person, and they want the abuse to stop. They don't necessarily want to not be with that person. And I'm sure whoever it is has other qualities that they were attracted to and that they like. And they want to be with that person. They just want the abusive behavior to stop.